can still do the intro. I can still do it. No big deal. We also still had the Kupo Quest thing come down. This is polished already. Surprise,
Oh, yeah.
everybody. We're doing a surprise stream really quick. We hadn't really even planned on this until earlier today. But for those of you that don't know, you should. But
How could you not?
Temptations, a new D&D 5e campaign, is premiering tomorrow night. That's Thursday night for me and most of the people in the United States. Friday or whatever for this guy.
Friday morning.
But so just a quick, while we're doing this, as you know, Dragonbane has been premiering on Thursday nights. We had to drop that down to once every other week. Some scheduling conflicts, so we decided to do that. But most of the group wanted to play, so I said, you know what? Let's just slot in another campaign. I am stretched thin though with DMing, and I just really wanted to play. So I had graciously Psychic said, you know, I've got an idea. I'll run a game.
Graciously, he says.
Well, hey, you offered. You offered. I didn't
That's
force this
true.
on you. I didn't force this
You
on
were
you.
like, hey, I want someone to be a DM so I can play. And I was like, fuck it, why not?
So I will be playing in this campaign. First time I've been playing in a while, and the first time I've played D&D on stream, I think. Is that real?
If we don't count Omega Om,
That's
because you
not
do The Walking
D&D.
Dead.
That's what
Oh
I'm
no,
saying
it's
though.
not. It's a whole
That's
different
not D&D
system.
though. It's a whole new system.
I mean,
So
technically everything's D&D at its essence.
okay, shh. That will get you cut in some parts of the internet, okay?
I'm only baby.
So, well, we can't get to you. You're too far away.
Yeah, true.
So you're
I'm
safe
good.
from
I'm safe.
all our U.S. guns.
Ah,
So
yes.
what? So what this is just a little bit of a time for me to get together with Psychic, and I'm not trying to get a one up on any of the other players or anything. I just want to talk to you and do a little preview for those who might want to check this out about the world, about the game, about what we're going to be doing here. So yeah, that's really the agenda here is just to do that. So
Yeah. It's going to be interesting.
This episode or the campaign in general,
E-
because I think you're right on both, to be honest.
Everything. I think everything's going
Everything.
to be
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. I've got no plan, no agenda. This is
Are
I
you
put
sure?
I put the I put the subject of the Twitch stream as D&D. I probably should have just done the just chatting one because that's what we're doing. We're just chatting.
But we're just chatting about D&D, so
That's true.
either
That's
one
why I
should
did
have
that.
worked.
I'm kind of hoping that because this was a surprise stream, I put no, like, it's not on the schedule. I didn't tell anybody about it. I'm kind of hoping somebody panics when they see us talking in here and think that the game was supposed to be
Like,
tonight.
shit, fuck. I thought about
Yeah,
that
oh
earlier.
no.
I not long woke up and I was like, oh, where are we going to do it? Is he going to DM me or are we going to do it in call? And I'm like, I can picture someone jumping in and be like, fuck, am I a day late? But what's going on?
Yeah. I usually do when I do like these little interview things. I have it set up to where only that person can access it, but I'm rolling the dice tonight. Pun intended, right? So
They're over there. I'm not wrapping the dice.
so I get inspiration. All right, dude. So let's just. Wait, can I hand out my own inspiration? That's not going to work, is it?
No,
Is that going to fly?
not in
Damn it!
not in my campaign. You can't.
It's still my channel, right? I can't do that. I can't.
I'm keeping the pun rule. That
I
is all
appreciate
you
that.
get.
I appreciate. You have no idea how much I appreciate the pun rule. I think
I had a feeling.
I think the pun rule is a defining characteristics of the Wolfkins tabletop brand. All right.
At this stage, yeah.
That's.
I mean, I hate it. I hate the puns.
So
I don't.
good.
But it's so good when they're great.
They're so.
I'm like, I have to do something for Wolf, I suppose.
I appreciate that. So let's talk. Let's talk. So I guess the first question, and if this is a spoiler, don't answer it. But Temptations, you picked the name. You said you wanted to name the campaign.
Yes.
Is there any particular reason you picked that?
Yeah.
Are you just a big Temptations fan, like the band?
No, unfortunately.
Even though they
music's good.
I
do like the old
pretty
music.
young, right?
No, Temptations is 50s, 60s, old, like bluesy, swing, jazz kind of band.
Well, look at you.
They sing. They Get Ready. I think is like one of their biggest ones.
Wow, you're even dropping song names. Okay, so it was because of the band then.
Yeah,
You're a
no.
much deeper
Um,
fan than I realized.
no, I just have random knowledge about music.
Sure.
Um,
Okay.
no, so Temptation's kind of like at the moment, I'm running another campaign that I called Stifled, which kind of runs under the
Hmm.
idea of stifled magic because it has the same, like, similar theme where the world kind of like hates and detests magic on most
Yeah.
occasions, where the only thing that kind of like is approved magic is artificial magic created from the tinkerers in one side of the world, aka the artificers, because after playing Nozak, I am in love with the artificer
I
role.
don't want to interrupt you, but I do have to ask. Was that particular like detail because of your experience with Nozak, or was that
One
already in your role?
hundred,
Okay.
one
Okay.
hundred
Okay.
percent.
Yeah, because I remember when you started as a cleric and only kind of stumbled
Yeah,
into artificer. So I was
literally.
when you kind of sent us the breakdown of the world, I was like,
Yeah.
I wonder if that was a direct result of Nozak.
Nozak's gonna make it appear. No, I'm kidding.
Nozak's
No, I
lasting
wanted
legacy.
to. I wanted to create like something to still have an impact with the artificial side of magic.
Sure.
And once I started like building that side of the world, it started to spiral out of control because I love science. I love being able to theoretically explain something. I like to be able to um like explain something using logic and reason. And magic kind of comes into that because you can't really explain magic. And
Sure.
then that side comes in with the psychic stuff that I do outside of streams as well, because you can't scientifically explain a lot of that stuff. So I'm like,
That's where your name
okay,
comes
cool.
from.
Yeah, I'm actually a psychic. I've been doing it for like 5 years. It sucked. I'm kidding. But no. So Temptations kind of came about because one part of it is something that will be revealed at a later date in
Okay.
episodes, which is going to tie into like mainly tie into like the story. This is kind of like one of the big points of the story is the whole Temptations. So I feel like
Okay.
once that's kind of revealed, everyone's going to be like, oh, "I get it now," and
Oh
that's
yeah.
what I'm hoping for. I want those. I want those moments we get in like Kupo Quest and Dragon Ball where you're like, "Oh, like I
Yeah.
want that."
Yeah. We've had a little bit
But
more in
no,
Kupo Quest just because it's been going on so long, but we've had a
yeah,
couple.
true.
Definitely had a couple.
But no, I want the gasps, I want the oh shits, like I want those kind of moments.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that like with calling it Temptations, that kind of plays on the mind of my players a little bit going
Okay.
through. Like where does it come in? What's going on here? Why is it Temptations? Everything seems so normal so far.
I mean, I've been
Um
wondering the entire time since you told. I was like, you picked that
yeah.
name specifically, right? So
Yes.
something's up. Yeah.
I was gonna try and call it something also along the lines of Stifled and playing off of the magic side.
Yeah.
Because spoilers going into the world, like magic is not okay. And I've always liked that concept of creating something or being able to use something that the world says no, that's not right. And sure, people could probably pull some real life inspirations from things, but I'm gonna tell you now, I am not smart enough to come up with that shit. Um,
I mean, it did sound like you were making a point. I mean, when you just were talking, I was like, oh, okay, I see where you're
no,
pulling from.
nah.
But
If you can pull some real life similarities, go ahead. I do not care. Um,
it's gonna be
but no,
interesting though, because I mean, like you said, magic is frowned upon, right?
yes,
Or in some
heavily.
cases outlawed in some parts of this world.
Hmm.
And I think that we've got. I'm playing a druid, right?
Yep.
We do have one artificer, a paladin, and a bard. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be interesting, especially for our bard friend, I think.
Exactly. I'm
But
curious to see how it works as well because, like, even though the three of you can do magic, two of them can be hidden, whereas
yeah,
yours is the only one that's like a bit more outward. But then
yeah,
also with the story, like, even yours is kind of accepted on a technicality.
sure.
So, like,
And no spoilers too much about my character because I don't want to
no.
spoil it, especially for my other players. But there's a real possibility my character's not aware of the current view of
Yeah,
magic, right? So I could see myself getting into some trouble, and I'm excited. I love
gonna
trouble.
be good.
I'm playing
Great. Can't
chaotic
wait to hear
good,
it.
just so you know. Chaotic good
Chaotic good.
is what I'm
Ooh. Okay.
not that I
That's gonna
strictly
be.
adhere to those but I do use those to kind of guide my decision making. Chaotic
Yeah.
good is what I'm going for. Uh, Kind of
Uh,
playing into some of that ties to the Fey realm that I've got in my backstory. So
that's interesting. I'm gonna
yeah,
write that down to Google more on that later. No, but no. So the idea that magic is kind of like outlawed and broken down is mainly due to what had happened during the Blood War. So essentially, in the world, about a 500-year period of time, from 100 years ago, from starting from 600 years ago in this world, there was a lady who basically started a tyrannical dictatorship. She like destroyed everything, she'd broken everything, and she had become obsessed with staying youthful and like taking over the world essentially. And the way that she'd done it in my mind is that I've reworked a little bit of how healing magic worked in this world. Instead of
Mhm.
it just being a regular, oh, we're healing wounds, we're healing stuff, I had written this idea years ago in a fan fiction that I did for a friend of mine, where healing magic was actually the most dangerous magic in the world because you could overclock the body and the body would start attacking itself.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so the way that
Yeah.
I'd written it in this story is that the healing magic was used specifically in a kind of like a vacuum setting to almost, I think the science says it from 25, our cells begin dying faster than they can reproduce, like
Oh,
in the
don't tell
cells
me
of the body.
that. Don't tell me that. Like,
Oh, we're screwed. I've already started
oh
degrading. It's
man,
fine.
I'm so far
Um,
past
but yeah,
25.
I'm pretty sure it's. You're like what, 3, 4 years older than me? That's nothing.
I don't remember how old you are.
But no. So the idea came because when the cells start to degrade, obviously that's when our body starts to go to shit. That's when we get older, etc.
My
So the
back has
idea
hurt more
was that
lately. Yeah,
it's
I can attest to that.
because we don't have these healers. It's what I'm telling
Yeah,
you.
yeah. The world
Anyway,
would be a better place, and of course,
honestly,
until you outlaw them.
yeah, well, that kind of comes from the fact that the healers were being used as basically personal bodyguards or personal healers for the Blood Queen to continue her reign for 500 years.
Sure.
And then 100 years from where we are set in our time for the campaign, she was basically backstabbed, killed because everyone was like, no, you've been
Oh,
around for
like a
too long.
Caesar
Um,
thing. Yeah,
yeah, so there is kind of a thing I'm going to be talking a lot more once it kind of happens and that lore starts to get revealed because there's a
sure.
whole lot around that whole situation. But the common word is that one of her close advisors offed her and was like, "Nah, we this is ridiculous. This is becoming too much of a hassle."
Interesting.
Um, so that's where that kind of idea comes into it, and from that point magic was kind of outlawed or at least frowned upon.
Okay.
Most regular forms of magic, so your wizards, sorcerers, warlocks, all that
The
kind of
arcane.
stuff,
Yeah, the
yeah,
arcane
all
stuff.
your
Yeah.
arcane stuff is completely banned in a sense unless it's used specifically by trusted mages that have been around for a while.
So a little bit of hypocrisy there. I like
Oh
that. Oh,
yeah.
magic only that we control. I like that.
Exactly.
I like a little bit of
um
hypocrisy in my
so
TTRPGs,
the
in my
main kind
stories.
of like hypocritical nature to it comes from magic that is used specifically to help townfolk, which starts with the
Ah,
druid side of things, because the druids are of the earth, they are of the earth essence of the mother and stuff like that. So the idea being that druids aren't exactly still happy to be around, but they're
mhm,
used more so for their magic of blessing the land, of helping with agricultural crops,
sure.
being able to help with harvest and stuff like that. The other side coming in with artificers in artificial magic that has been created through science and technology, which happens in the other half of the world, which
So
I've already
you
forgotten the
said
names of.
I want to touch on that really quick because you said there's two halves of the
Yes.
world. Are they
Yes.
friendly, or are they like at war, or what's the relationship between those two sides here?
So
And when you say
the
sides of the world, you mean that there's actually something between them, right? It's not just like
yes,
an
it is
ocean.
a massive fissure in the world.
Yeah.
So this leads into where we're starting because we start in the town of Zapron, and Zapron is a little agricultural town on the left half of the world, which is still very traditional, your medieval style D&D. Like, you hunt, you clean, you grow crops, and all
And
that
they
stuff. So
they
they're like the
hate the magic,
traditional.
right?
Yeah, they're the ones that are like magic. Mm-mm, no, sis, that ain't good.
Yeah,
But then on the right side of the world, those are the guys that are kind of like, well, we can create our own magic, and that's where the idea of the tinkerers and the artificers
sure.
and that kind of come into things. So on the left side where we're beginning is your traditional D&D, your medieval style, all of that stuff. But then once we kind of like start to travel around and we get onto the right side, there's going to be a lot more modern influences. There's going to be a
Okay.
lot more kind of bringing it into the
Steampunky?
future kind of thing. Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to specifically call it steampunk because there is still the idea of electricity, and we're not just using
Oh,
those like,
cool.
yeah, we're not just using the idea of the steampunk brand or that steampunk kind of visual of all of the
Oh,
gears and the cogs and that like old hot air balloon kind of Zeppelin
how
feel.
would my druid react to electricity? That's gonna
Probably
be an
quite interestingly.
interesting. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm just excited to be able to play, and I'm loving everything you say. And none of it's and you might be able to tell because some of the questions I've asked. But I mean, we covered a lot of this with the backstory, the background in our session 0,
Mm,
so it's not really a surprise to the players. But because it's important to know kind of at least the basics of the setting you're going into. But I'm
yeah.
so excited because normally when I start these games, I'm DMing them. And
Yes.
I know the history. I know, and there's no surprises. I mean, there's okay. You all surprise the hell out of me, right? I mean, the things that you all do, the things the players get up to, that's the surprises for the DM. But,
Hmm.
there's just something about being on this side of the table, the surprise of, how will my character react in this situation? What's going to
Hmm.
happen? I don't know what all of these people are doing in the background, and it's exciting for me. And I've missed it. I mean, I love playing The Walking Dead. It is great. But I've missed playing D&D. I have missed playing D&D. I've missed using all my fancy D&D Beyond dice and all that stuff. So I'm I'm pumped. I'm
I
pumped.
am I am happy and excited for you to be on the player side.
Oh,
I'm also
thanks.
happy and excited because we have essentially, like, from what I've heard talking to everybody, like, we have three forever DMs
Yeah. Yeah.
that are like doing their own thing, and
Yeah.
then like I keep saying three forever DMs, and then like I don't know how exactly to just like announce Killer Bubbles as a player as well, because I've only played with them for
Veteran.
Dragonbane, but like their creativity is
Yeah.
absolutely off the charts. Like
Yeah.
I love playing with her, and the way her mind works is
Yeah.
incredible.
She's a great
So
player. So I guess I'll hit on that really quick. Okay. So
yes.
the people that we have. So there will be some new faces, or at least one new face that's not been on a stream before. But as far as players go, it is myself, Killer
Hmm.
Bubbles, who you would know from Dragonbane. She plays the brilliant and amazing Beyonce on our Dragonbane campaign.
He's
We
waiting the
also
troll killer.
the Troll Killer. We need to start. You've seen Game of Thrones, I'm assuming. We need to start giving her those like Daenerys. Have you really not seen Game of Thrones?
I think I've
Wow.
seen like maybe the first season, and I was like, not for me.
Okay, well that's fine. Daenerys ends up with like 17 different titles behind her name, right? We need to do
Oh,
that for Beyonce,
yeah.
like Beyonce, Slayer of Trolls, Singer of Song, just like a million different things. Ravnok will be on this, and if that name doesn't sound familiar, it's because you haven't watched one of the best things we've ever produced, which was our Easter one shot. Okay, so he was on that. It was amazing. It was
Was
so
so weird, but it
it
was
was
so good.
there's nothing weird about that. It was so much fun. And then we will have a new face, and that's the other forever DM. So that is let's see, JM Zeb,
Zeb.
right? So yeah,
Yes.
new players there, but nice blend too. I'm so glad that they were able to come back in. I'm glad Killer Bubbles. She was on our Thursday night game, so it kind of I think worked out because it's just for the three of us still a weekly game. But
Mhm.
yes, Killer, not specifically. I mean, they're all great, but I love the creativity that she brings into just her characters, and I cannot wait to see what she does because I think she's our artificer,
Yes.
right?
As
And
far
if
as I'm
I'm
aware,
not
she's the
mistaken,
artificer.
she's a tiefling. I think it's gonna be great.
Mm.
I think it's gonna be great.
It's. I'm really curious to see how her character grows and how she plays as well.
Mm.
Not just because of like now I've had some experience with Artificer, so I kind of know what to look out for and how to like not let my Artiv have like a natural 23 AC with shield
You let them
and
do
all
it.
this other stuff.
You let
Like,
them do it. You just keep throwing. Okay.
um,
Here's a little secret. Most of the encounters I would throw at you all were deadly at the minimum because I knew what you
mm,
all were capable of. And I knew that for your party, especially when you all still had the job system, a deadly encounter was really more like a hard encounter,
yeah,
right? Just because you powered up. But I was like, oh, that's fine. I'll just use bigger creatures because that's more fun for me too, right? So a little bit of a
and
balancing act, but
I
yeah, you'll
may
grow.
or may not have taken some inspiration from you introducing the job system. It's not going to be something similar to that.
Sure.
It's not going to be like that kind of thing. But the way that I'm doing it is tying into the morality of the party in the world as well, and how the world sees the party as a
So like a
group.
light side, dark side kind of thing from like a
Kind of
old Star Wars
situation,
game.
yeah. It's like
Nice.
so in its essence, yes, in like that vein of if you do it, it's probably not going to be great, but it's going to give power. My idea of basing
Mm,
it off of BioShock using the little sisters as Adam
yeah,
to power
yeah.
up.
But you
So that
never
was
used
my
them.
kind
You
of
saved them all. You
I did
never
multiple
used.
playthroughs to see what happened. So
No.
different saves. I never
You
tarnished one
you
save.
save them all, and then you look up the bad stuff on YouTube.
Oh, I
That
killed
way.
them all first. I was
Oh
like, yo, give me power.
no. No,
I ain't
that's a
stupid.
terrible ending. It's
I'm not stupid.
that one's terrible.
I wanted to kill things faster, and they were in my way. No,
Heartless. They're so creepy and cute at the same time.
me, no. But no.
Yeah,
So
you're
I wanted
creepy
to
and
base
cute too,
the
Psychic.
yeah, yeah. The two characters I've played have been a war criminal and a serial killer, so this should be interesting.
To
But
be
no. So
fair, you died before you became a war criminal. You were just going in that
I was
direction.
on. I was on the right track.
You
I
were
was on
on
the
the
track.
you're on the war criminal fast track.
Yeah.
Oh,
Look, Geneva Convention is more of a Geneva suggestion, but anyway.
well.
Um, for the character, in game, in game, in game, in game,
Yes, yes, yes.
in
That
game.
that was not whoa. Just if you don't know what we're talking about, you've got a couple episodes of Kupo Quest you need to watch. Just go
Just a
back,
few.
rewind, and start at the
Um,
beginning. It's great.
but yeah, so the idea of the level up, or like leveling up is still normal. That's still going to be your traditional D&D side. But this new thing that's going to be kind of introduced with this like campaign, or the one that I want to do, like it does take inspiration from other things because I'm not entirely creative. I can't create a whole new system off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But
If you
I
can,
wanted
let's
to
run it. That'd be
rework
fun.
it. Exactly. And like I wanted to kind of rework it in a way that introduces a new way to kind of spice up the classes as well, which is what I
Okay.
liked from the job system because you weren't just stuck with what you had, you could do
Yeah.
something else. But I also think it'll introduce a way to like kind of invigorate, like, because after you do one thing for so long, you're like, I want to do something else now. And like, while I didn't have that with Nozak, that was like a story-driven change for him going from cleric to artificer.
Yeah.
I wanted this to kind of be a way of like, you could still be that, but here's some new shit to play with,
Cool.
like
Cool.
kind of that thing.
I mean, you could always do the Ava and just take every class.
Yeah, way of the fuck you,
The
basically,
way
is
of
the way
the D&D character. Yeah. No,
way
that
of
sounds
D&D.
interesting. That sounds interesting. So another like you said, not exactly like the job system that we introduced in Kupo Quest, but like a alternate
Like a
power path that goes alongside with your levels of your
Yeah,
class. Okay,
basically.
interesting.
And the
Interesting.
way it like kind of it's going to be interesting as well because it's all going to be like it's all homebrew, I know that much. And as far as I know, homebrew with D&D Beyond is very difficult to do because I'm useless. But
I
no,
can
like it's going
help
to
as
be
long as it doesn't spoil anything. Like if it gets introduced, you need help making it, I can then help you make it. Like if we've already
uh,
learned about it. You know what I
we'll
mean?
probably figure out a way to do it. But if worst comes to worst, it might just have to be like written down in a notebook somewhere. Like I have these
Sure.
extra abilities. Like if I can't figure it out, then we'll do that.
Well, I mean, once you
But
tell us what
no,
it is, I'll probably homebrew my own, just so I have it on my character. Just.
yeah.
But yes, it does take some. It's not the most intuitive. I only know how to do it because I've done it a million times. So
Mm.
yeah,
But no, I'm also curious to see how it's going to work with the player interactions as well. Because even though it's directly tied to the campaign, it's tied to the story, it's tied to leveling up, this is the one thing that I was really proud of coming up with the idea for it, because we have 3 forever DMs, and as far as I know, Killer has played a lot of D&D. So I'm
yeah,
like, I wanted to kind of figure a way to make it kind of like a new experience for everybody
yeah. That's a good
and
idea.
try and bring something unique. So the way that I did it, I just revealed it in my personal campaign with my friends, and they were like, that isn't right. That's not what that does. What do you mean this can do this now? That's not fair. And I'm like, well, that's just the world, and if you want to be able to do that stuff, here you
That's not
go.
that's
Like,
not fair in a good way or a bad way. Now you've got me. Now you've
uh,
got me a little hesitant here.
how would I be able to not spoil this
Oh, you're
idea?
not gonna be able to answer this, are you?
Essentially, people will be able to do things they can't do if they have partaken in this leveling up system. It is not
Okay.
unique to the players. Let's say that.
Okay. Interesting.
So
That's
it's not
interesting. So
unique
yeah.
to
Okay.
you, which is going to be good.
I've become intrigued again, and not
Yeah.
necessarily hesitant. I've moved back to the intrigued camp. So
Awesome. I'm glad. But
I
no,
mean, I'll roll with it.
it's
Whatever. It's
also
just you were like, mm?
I'm I'm curious as well because like even though anybody that has like watched Kupo Quest, like that was my first campaign. That was my first like sit down playing D&D for
Mm,
longer than like one session or longer than just character planning and stuff like that. So like all of that kind of information knowledge that I have now as a DM is coming from what I've learned from Kupo Quest playing with Ace and Grunthor, Ava, and Blake, or like doing Dragonbane now playing with Omega, Killer, yourself, and
nefarious.
Nefarious. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, I did have it. I got it in the end. Don't crucify me. I got there in the end.
You just
But
listed
no,
a lot of people,
I
though. I was impressed. That's a lot of
yeah,
names.
I got them all right, everybody. But no, I wanted to kind of tap into that knowledge because obviously that is what I know from D&D and from
Yeah.
watching like Dimension 20, the Oxventure Guild, Critical Role, stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
a lot of the information I have isn't from playing; it's from watching and learning and researching and
I
all
think that's how
that.
a lot of people
But
learn, actually.
the
I think that's
thing
how
that
a
kind
Critical Role
of
gets a lot of people into the game.
true, especially because I don't think that started. I think that started before then. But like COVID was really big for D&D as well because
Oh,
everybody was
COVID
stuck
was
at
a
home.
huge boon. Like COVID's
Yeah,
one of the. I mean, COVID sucked, but it was one of the best things that happened to D&D. I think it really helped
agreed.
them. Yeah.
Um, but no, so like even though I don't have a lot of like intimate knowledge of D&D, and that's why I've already said with Zeb and with you as well, like if I ever need something, like I do not mind just like stopping for a moment and being like, I need to know this information for a
Yeah.
second. Like I don't care.
Yeah.
But what I do have, and why like you and I have been going back and forward in like
Mm.
our players lounge and all that stuff. Not the players lounge, that's Kupo Quest. That's a force of
I named
habit.
them. I named
Um
them all something similar. This was the player's place. I
this
think.
is players place. But
I
no,
thought it
you
was
and I have been
fun
going
at
back and
first, but now
forwards.
I'm like, wait, shit, which one is this?
um, but no, you and I've been going back and forward, and you're like, "Oh, you're not ready for this. It's gonna be good." And I'm like, "No, no, no. You don't quite get where I'm coming from because I don't have D&D knowledge, but I've been writing books and fantasy style novels and fan fiction for like
Uh,
10 years, and I've been doing like public speaking, debating, acting.
oh, I'm
Like
not
I've
worried
done
about that.
streaming for like eight,
Here,
9 years, so
here's the thing,
I have a
though.
lot of improv knowledge.
Has your fan fiction, any of that stuff you've ever written, has the character on the page ever looked at you and said, "Nah, I'm gonna
Oh,
do
all the
something
time.
totally different"?
All the time. That's how I write. So the way that I write things, this pisses off my friend as well because she also writes fan fiction and she reads a lot, and it pisses her off because she has to get everything correct. They've got to get it all done. Everything's methodical, and I'm like. I'm just watching a movie in my head and I'm just typing what's
Writing it
going
out.
on.
Yeah.
There have been so many times where I've been like typing everything. I'm like, oh, I want to be able to do this. Like the one that I recently just finished or stopped and then like done a final chapter for. I was like writing it out and I'm like, I want this to happen and I think the character can do this. And as I'm writing it, I'm like, none of this is what I want, but I'm not mad.
Yeah. Well, that's
Like,
D&D.
why are you killing this person? They're not even relevant to the story. Hang on, wait a second. Go back a few chapters. Okay, yeah, no, we can kill this person. That's fine, I
Yeah.
suppose.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Um
a collaboration with my characters. That's all
yeah.
it is.
And that's what D&D is. I mean, if and that's how I like it. I mean, that's how I like to play it. You can't really have just, going into it as a DM like this has to happen. It
Oh yeah,
never works. It never works. It's but I mean, because if you ask me a year and a half ago, what's the format for Kupo Quest? I'm thinking, okay, we go after this crystal, we do this crystal. Some things happen, but we stay pretty focused. We do the four crystals, and then we see what happens at the end. Um,
Ah,
did I anticipate destroying crystals? No, no, that was never part
do
of the
we
plan.
anticipate political and dictatorship warfare, or
This
like?
this whole campaign became super political. I didn't set out. I mean, I've had fun. I've been enjoying the political stuff, but I didn't set out to make a political campaign. But that's what we got into because just you all entrenched yourselves so much in the leaders, the kings. You latched on to Sarah in the beginning.
Yeah,
And instead of leaving her to continue your journey, you chose to stay with her. And that decision in episode like 7 or 8 changed the entire course because not
yeah,
only did you go, you were supposed to, there was no supposed to, but I anticipated you'd either head north to the earth crystal or kind of veer off to the water crystal. Instead, you go straight to Lindblom, right? You go
yeah,
straight to the heart of the empire. The empire was supposed to be like a background character or like a setting threat, right? And instead, that moved them to the forefront, and they have become the primary antagonist of the campaign, all because of the
yeah.
single decision to travel with Sarah in the beginning. And that's why I
Butterfly
love
effect
D and
is
D.
real.
That's why I love D&D. And it just that's just how it happens. I only plan like
Mm,
a session forward at a time. Right? Like I
yep.
have in my head what's happening, but other than that, it's like I got no clue what you all are gonna do. And I'm hoping that as a player, I can give that experience back to you.
I am hoping that
Excuse me.
my players just absolutely pull the rug out from under me because
Yeah.
I love improv. I love yes and I love like the
Mhm.
acting side of it all. And like learning and playing D&D is like basically you're being thrown into a world but then the world is being created as you're writing it. And that's what I love the most and
Yeah.
I'm absolutely looking forward to my players just blindsiding me with ideas or blindsiding me with like creativity. And aside
Yeah.
from the puns, that's another thing that I have a personal rule of for giving inspiration of just if you can come up with something that is just not what it is usually used for, you get inspiration.
Yeah.
Like I had my players in my other campaign on a ship being pirated along and like being like in a fight or whatever, and one of my players used shape water to bring up the seawater to destroy the automaton
Mhm.
creatures that were on the ship. And I was like, that's brilliant. Because, like, I was expecting them to just throw them overboard, but, like, bringing the sea to them, I'm like, yeah, that's inspiration. That's sick.
Did I ever
That's,
tell you the open container discussion that I had with one of my players?
oh, it's something to do with shape water, is it? Like,
It create water.
oh, yeah.
Create
Okay.
destroy water. It's just D&D is the only game where you can be playing and then someone legitimately stops and says, "Would you consider an open
A
mouth an open
person.
container?"
Okay.
And
I've
you have to
seen this.
say why.
We,
And they to
we,
their credit, they were like, "Answer the question first." And I'm like, "Oh,
you
I
say that as like a funny side note, but my players literally asked me in the last session, does a corpse count as an item that I can put into my book's inventory to ferry them along? And I'm like, that is so
hmm.
morbid and dark. I need to Google something real quick.
I mean, it's not a creature anymore, really, at that
No,
point.
it's a person, but it's an inanimate. Like I looked it up, and Google was like, "Well, I mean, technically, it's an animate object because it's not
Yeah,
moving or doing anything." I'm like,
dark.
"This
D&D can
is
get
this is
dark.
not something I was ready for." I'm like, "It was the two happiest characters." Been like, "We want to transfer them because they're a friend. They died. We want
Oh,
to put
yeah.
them to rest." And they're like, "Can I put them in the book?" And I was like, "What?
Well, it's
You want to do what to them?"
and now you're on some list for Googling, does a dead body count as a person?
Oh, mate! After all the years of writing like fan fiction and stories and shit, I've been on a list for years.
Yeah, Google's got you
Welcome,
locked in
welcome to
somewhere.
writing. I should
And
be on a
D&D,
no-fly
D&D,
list.
you'll Google a lot of weird stuff. You'll Google a lot of weird stuff playing this game.
Incognito tab is a lifesaver. Let me just say
They can
that.
still see that.
Yeah,
But the people
your
you live
government
with
might be able
can't.
to. Ours aren't smart enough for that shit, but yours
Yeah,
might
but
be.
you think our government's not watching you too?
Probably not. We do whatever they say most of the time, anyway.
Well, that's how you. Well, that's how you stay on their good side, I guess.
Speaking of doing whatever the government says when they want to, because I'm great at segues, um, I'm curious as well to see, due to the fact of what we've done with Kupo Quest and how we kind of tied ourselves into the government system and the
Mm,
kings and queens and all that, I'm curious as well leading into it with the difference between like the difference between Ashdol and Ulfrim, which are the two main cities, and I totally didn't have to go to my Google Drive to remember the name of them. But
it's
Ulfrim
okay.
being the medieval side and Ashdol being the artificial side, I'm curious as well to see whether we have similarities between the way that we looked at the government system and how
Hmm.
that worked into it. Because even though I would like to, like, as you said with the original idea of the empire being like it's just kind of in the background, we don't have any real connection to them, etc. I'm curious to see whether history repeats itself with temptations as we did with
Yeah.
Kubo Quest, and see how that
I
works.
think it'll be hard because I think that just straight out of the gate, most of the members of our party just don't they have a reason not to want to be close to the government, right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think that it'll be interesting to see that if that were to be the case, the circumstances that lead to that, because it's like, oh, do we cozy up to these rulers and monarchs or whatever the ruling structure is that are outlawing our not way of life necessarily, but the magic we can do, and
Yeah.
if so, is it to try to get that changed? Like
Mm.
that's it'll be interesting, and I can only speak for like what my character might be thinking, but we've got three other loose cannons in there, and I've got no idea.
I
It's gonna
can't
be
wait.
good. I'm looking forward to the party dynamic because I mean, um, for me it's gonna be interesting because I actually personally know two of them.
Mm.
Outside of offline, which is unusual for one of my streamed games because normally I don't personally know the people, or I've met them either online or through playing these games. But both
Yeah.
Ravnok and Killer Bubbles, I know in real life, so I'm comfortable, very comfortable, just RPing with them, and
Mm.
you can probably attest. I don't really shy away from it too. If I need to
Yeah.
scream at
We've had
somebody,
screaming matches
yeah
in
we have.
character.
And if anybody's watching Walking Dead, me and Omega just had it out because he was playing Negan, and we had it out big time. It was a great episode. Oh, it was one of my
I
favorites.
love that stuff though.
I do
Like I
too.
love when the players get that into their character and their world
Yeah,
that they are comfortable like cuz I kept doing it as well like with the way that Nozak was growing in my mind and how I'm doing like I hated it. Like I personally am just not that person, but every
sure.
time something would happen and he'd react or he'd like get upset or he'd yell at someone or like when Grunthor come back is a good example, and
Yeah,
Nozak was absolutely against it. Like he did not want anything to do with it and all that. I was like, I still love you. I'm sorry.
yeah.
I promise I'm not like this.
But I think that the group that we've got for this game, I don't think they're going to be any like no one's going to get their feelings hurt or anything. I will say that the
Hmm.
one person I don't know personally does personally know Killer Bubbles, so we
Yeah.
all kind of know. So I think that there's
There's a
a
Venn diagram somewhere there.
it's yeah, But I think that that will help actually with just the comfort level of being able to really lean into the RP and not take it personal,
Mm,
because that was one of my biggest concerns putting together Kupo Quest, because I put it together with a bunch of random people, in the beginning. Now I consider them all friends. Like I've never met
yeah.
any of them, but I've been talking to you all for almost 2 years straight on a weekly basis. I feel like I at least know you on a surface level, right? Uh,
Yeah.
but that session
Oh,
0, I didn't know how it was gonna go. And if you remember, we had another player that dropped after session 0.
yeah. I
Remember
remember you
that?
saying. I think you said that she was British, and it was just a time zone for her that it was quite
No,
difficult to do, or something.
that was someone that I was talking to. There was actually someone
Ah,
that was
okay.
at our session 0. There
Was
was
there?
a 5th person at our session 0 that dropped out later that week.
Oh, I'm gonna feel bad not remembering now.
They didn't put their camera on, but they were in
Okay,
there.
never mind then.
If you think
Never
really
mind.
hard, they were
Um,
back. But but yeah, I mean, it was just, I mean, which is fine. I mean, it's just the streaming thing wasn't for
yeah, of
them. But
course.
I think that in this case, that's just one less stress for us to worry about, right? I just
Yeah,
I don't think that we're gonna have any hard feelings when our characters come to blows, because that happens.
yeah, and as well as like remembering that they are characters. They're not like personification incarnate of
Yeah,
who we
yeah,
are as people as
sure.
well. Like D&D is like playing a video game. We can create whatever the fuck we want. So when people are like able to, like, we're playing in a world that you can throw magic and stuff, like all the memes that come from D&D and that, like, there's so many layers and levels to the idea of acting and bringing forward these characters, where it's like, if you're going to play D&D and make a character that is just you, you're either a brand new player and you're just trying to get into it, or you're basic and boring and you should probably do something
Or
else.
you really like yourself. Now, I will say there are, I get what you're
Quick little
saying.
transition.
There are therapeutic reasons some people do that. It can actually have been using D&D for therapy, but I do see what you're saying. You have so many unlimited options,
Unlimited options,
and it's a
yeah.
role playing game. It is a chance for you to step outside of yourself. I, of course, still playing a human, though,
Don't
of all the
face. No, I'm
races.
kidding.
There's a reason I picked human, and it wasn't just because variant human is so great, and that first level feat just, mwah. um, but I like that just because that first level feat really helps to flesh out the character, not from a
Mm,
power perspective, but that feat just really gives you some extra flavor. But
yeah,
again, no spoilers. Based on my backstory, you probably know why I picked a human because I was just going for it. But
yeah. It's kind of obvious.
oh,
Once you read the backstory, it's kind of
I
obvious.
wasn't hiding what I was doing. In fact,
Oh
once it
no.
gets one I actually have a series in my head that I want to do. This would be the start of it, and I will make that series once I reveal my character and who they are and what they are. And no one will be surprised. No one will be
Oh,
surprised
probably
about
not.
my character if they know
But
me
I'm
at
down. No.
all. But
No.
but yeah, I mean,
I'm curious to see that.
I didn't put my own spin on it. It's not just a one for one. It's just inspired by a character that I very much love and adore. But yeah, I'm
No.
looking forward to seeing what these people do with their
I can't
characters.
wait to kill him. I mean, what?
Oh, she won't die. She will live forever.
We'll see.
There's nothing happen. So I am playing a woman. So that's not myself, right? So
Yeah.
I'm a human, but I'm not playing a male presenting character. So there we go.
Yeah.
I do hope that whatever's going on with my throat right now clears up. Otherwise, it's going to be a very manly sounding
Yeah.
woman tomorrow. But
No, I'm ready for my players. I'm ready with session one. I'm prepared. I'm ready. I did say to you guys in our like session zero as well that the session one, I wanted to find a way to get each character individually into one spot
yeah,
to kind of bring that party together. But once that's there, the world is your oyster.
Yeah.
Like I've figured out how to accurately and still like faithfully bring everyone together.
Okay.
But once everyone's kind of like together, that's when things are going to start happening. So it's going to be
Nice.
interesting as well because when I'm DMing with my players, I take a while and I'm still learning how to pace things. So that's why I'm hoping that like I can pick that up really quickly with like our two
Yeah.
hour, like a little bit over, but like our 2 hour time slot
Yeah.
for like Temptations for
How,
Kupo for Dragonbane etc.
how long do your
Um,
normal like home
3 hours.
3? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It's an
I
adjustment
try really
for
hard to cut
sure.
it down.
Yeah.
But like I've learnt, obviously I know from Cooper Quest, but like Ace, Ava, Grunthor, like they have all played D&D, so they know how to quicken things up. Like I was slowing things down when I was first playing. We
Wow.
could all agree on this. So
You
like I was like, oh
it
yeah,
was you
cool.
and because it was Izzy's first time playing a wizard, there were times when
Yeah,
he was
that
like,
too.
oh, so many spells, but you figured it out. I mean, that's just how the game
Yeah.
works, you know.
So it was funny like doing that one and then I was like, "Oh, I'm going to have a campaign and oh, I've like got 3 of my friends and I want to like add some more people and oh, I really like these other 3 ideas." So I have 6 players and I learned very
Oh,
quickly combat needs
too
to be
many.
at the start of a fucking session.
For
Otherwise, you
6
ain't getting
people?
shit done for like
Yeah.
4 hours.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you'll notice I mean, and what I try to do is in my 2-hour sessions, if I'm going to do a combat, I try to start it by the hour mark.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, or I tell you we're gonna be running a little late, but I always kind of keep an eye on it. Like I need to start this by the hour mark, and if that doesn't happen, then I start to think, okay, is this gonna? Maybe I just tease it. The encounter gets pushed to next time. Maybe they
Mhm.
avoid it. I mean, they could always avoid it, but if it seems to
Done
be
that a couple of
inevitably
times.
coming, then
Yeah.
yeah, maybe this is one that we do a little extra RP before the fight would start or something like that, and
Mm.
then we end it there at a cliffhanger. So that's something that it just comes with
Yeah, I'm
streaming.
definitely gonna have to learn that side of. And another thing that I'm gonna need to learn as well is not necessarily the art of cliffhangers, because like
Uh,
every episode of Cooper Quest basically ends with a
I
cliffhanger.
don't know how I managed to do
I'm
it. I don't
I'm
try
immune
all
to
the
that
time.
shit by now. I'm like, oh, we're stopping. I think I actually called you out one
You
time. Like
did.
we were getting close, and I was like, and we're stopping here, and you're like, no, fuck you, we're going 5 more minutes now.
That's
um,
because though I do remember that time. If you remember, I had an even better cliffhanger coming.
yeah,
I
you
was like,
did.
not yet.
I did call it out correctly that it
You
would have
did.
been, but
You
you were 5 steps ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. That would have been. But yeah, I mean that just yeah, I think Kellen called me out too. You're like every episode's a cliffhanger. I'm like, well, yeah. Yeah, I
So
got to get you hooked. I got to get you back next week.
I mean, that's the way to do it. So
Yeah.
I need to, if I'm going to be doing combat, I'm hoping and praying, obviously, it's just wishful thinking, that like
Yeah.
having 3 forever DMs and
Yeah.
killers just absolutely on the spot quick wit
I think we're
is
yeah,
like things should be happening pretty quickly. If anything's going to be slow, it's probably going to be me looking things up,
sure.
which is
Well,
fine.
and
Every
in the
DM's like
beginning
that.
too, there's only a couple choices for level 1 through 2, 1, 2 and 3 characters, right? So in the beginning, combat goes quicker, but yeah, I think with the experience level of most of the players, I think
Yeah,
that combat will not be too much of a slog.
I am. It's going to be good. I
It's gonna be
am
great.
excited for when I introduce certain things, and I am excited for my players being surprised because I have a behemoth, pun reference, of a task
Nice.
in trying to create something because it's a personal challenge for me to create something that will surprise the DMs because
Mm.
that's where I see I've never seen D&D as DM versus players. That to me is just
It's
wrong.
not.
It's
It's
not
it's
fun.
if you're doing it that way,
Yeah,
you're doing it wrong, I think.
exactly. So like in less of an idea of that, like I don't ever want it to be DM versus players. I want it to be more DM surprises players, which is what
Yeah.
Cooper Quest is, which is what everything is. And
Yeah,
I'm hoping that with the systems in place, the world that it grows, how people treat people, etc., etc.
mhm.
Like I want to My personal goal when I first reveal information for something is to have everyone say, "That's not right. You can't do that."
You
That is
can't
what
do
I
that
want.
to me.
If
What
I
is
have
it?
one of my players
What's
and
it? Is he always
if I
says,
reveal,
"I hate it
yeah,
here."
I hate it here. It's either I hate it here, or you ate, or something like
Oh,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Insert gay slang here. Um,
You
quiz
ass.
slang.
He gives me that a lot. You
You,
ass.
how dare you?
Yeah.
Um, but no, I if I have at least one of my players go, "You can't do that," or "What are you doing?" I've won. I'll be like, we could end the campaign right there.
We're
I ain't going.
done. We're done.
We're
Rocks
finished.
fall, everyone dies. The
Yeah,
end.
everyone falls down the ravine. Um, but no, speaking of the ravine, actually, where we start is going to be interesting because there is going to be some lingering effects of what happened. So,
Ooh.
during the war, there was the battle between Ashdol and Ulfrim, where they were just constantly fighting due to the Blood Queen's influence, and the gods themselves. I did say it in like session 0 that the gods were kind of just like a passive thing.
Mhm.
May have lied through my teeth a little bit. The gods are gonna be a lot more kind of around.
Have things changed since session 0?
Not really. I just
Oh, so
lied.
you did just lie.
I just straight lied to everybody.
The
I'm like, yeah, the
question was
gods are
coming from the
passive. The
paladin, so he would know.
he'll be right.
So he
She'll be
would know how
fine.
invested to be.
Yeah, she'll be fine. If you watch this,
Oh my
I'm
god.
not sorry because there's going to be reasons for it.
That's
But
funny.
no, like the gods are still going to be around, and that's mainly going to tie into the fact of like they're actively trying to keep the world alive because where does the worship and religion come from if there are no people to worship or
Sure.
do religion?
Sure.
So there's gonna be like moments of things happening or another thing, and it's like people can say that it's taking inspiration from D&D and from you and all that stuff, but like even when I'm writing, I am always a fan of just because you're the players, the world doesn't revolve around you.
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
you
and
could be doing one thing, shit's gonna happen over there. Like
yeah, especially at low levels, right? Especially at low levels.
exactly.
Like at level 20, you're basically God yourself. Maybe things do revolve around you a little bit more then. But yes, I mean,
Nah.
and the players are a person in the world. They
Hmm.
may be people
Yeah.
that gather influence, and over the course of a campaign, they may become very influential. They may
Hmm.
change the course of, like you're seeing in Kupo Quest, change the course of. I mean, they're having political talks with the, between the
With a rabbit.
empire. Right, right. But
Yeah.
things still happen when
Mm.
they aren't looking, and that's always great.
And
It's
I love
always
that
great.
stuff because it also brings a sense of uh not morbid curiosity, but kind of a sense of like if we weren't here, what would have happened?
Oh yeah,
And
I wonder that.
there's
So I
that
mean,
kind of
I use that thinking sometimes. Like, if the players had
yeah.
never done this, what would have happened then? Would that
Mm,
still happen just in a delayed fashion? Or if that was that character's motivation, would they pursue this in a different way, even though
yeah.
now that the players are here? Yeah, it's a great way to think about how your background characters work.
Another thing that I do feel I need to mention, and I was reminded of it while I was talking to one of my players. Have you played Octopath Traveler?
Yes. I haven't beaten
Okay,
it, but I've
first of
played it.
all, incredible game. The music is absolutely
Very good.
amazing. Please play it if you have the chance to. I heavily have taken an inspiration of the way that they introduce storytelling for their characters.
Hmm.
So even though everybody is in a party, everybody has their own thing, each character has their own story for
Yeah.
their characters, their backgrounds. And I recently just finished chapter 1 of one of my characters. And I'm like, okay, cool. Chapter 1 is done. Chapter 2 is going to come at some point, and I'm not going to tell you when. It's
Yeah.
just going to appear. And like once I kind of put the pieces together, I'm like, I've literally just recreated Octopath Traveler
Yeah.
and the way that they
Well,
do their
that's because it's
storytelling.
great storytelling, and it's really good in a tabletop game because it lets everybody have that moment, because
Yeah.
we're all a party. No one's the main character, but at some points, people want to be the main character for just a little bit.
Mm.
right?
Exactly.
So it's nice. That's what I've been trying to do with Kupo Quest. I've been trying to spotlight certain people at certain times, let them have their moment, you know. And I think it's the way to
Mm.
do it. I mean, I'm looking forward to my moment, right? I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to
I'm
being
looking
the
forward to
main
yours as
character.
well. It's going to
Yeah.
be so interesting and intriguing and beautiful, and I am probably going to vomit once or twice. No, I'm kidding.
I'm gonna be so adorable. You're gonna puke.
Ah, great.
Gonna be so
Honestly,
cute.
love it. No, so I did have that idea of like specifically having those moments built into the story of like these three party members might be fine, but maybe this one's starting to get a bit nervous. Like, okay, why are you getting nervous? Like, what's going on here? Like, I wanted to specifically have those moments to kind of give more of that freedom and agency to the player, which is
Sure.
something I needed to learn in my campaign. Was that there were a lot of times where I would want to do something, and my players would be like, "Okay, well, can we at least do this?" And I'm like, "Oh wait, hang on a second. Just because it's my world doesn't mean it's my story."
Yeah.
And
And that's the biggest hurdle to get over as a DM, and it sounds like you're there.
yeah,
So
I'm
it's
getting there slowly but surely.
because
I
the
had
the
to
thing
retcon the last session because of how I ended it before, but
mm,
it's there.
the thing with being a DM is you're not telling a story. You're
Yeah,
facilitating four or five other people telling a story. You
exactly.
are binding their story by a set of your gravity. You're the physics of the world, right? They're the
I'm the director.
storytellers.
You're the players.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even the director, it's the director if all the actors got to do this whenever they wanted to, right? So,
True. Yeah,
so yeah, I
true.
mean, it's interesting.
God, I hope that happens at least once.
I'm sure it will. So we have been talking for about an hour. So I will say this,
Yeah, I
kind
didn't
of
even
wrapping
realize.
this up.
Whoop.
Do you have anything you want to, any last things you want to say? Do you want to tease anything or what? Any last things you'd
Um,
like to give us?
Trying to think. Anything I want to talk about? Expect the unexpected. No, I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
most of it, most of it is all for fun. We are all
Of
players.
course.
We are all played D&D. Like everybody knows that. I want it to be said that if they watch this little thing or not,
They
please, for the
should.
love of
Be
God,
great.
like, do not hold back. If you want to do something, if your character would get upset, if your character would get angry or anything like that, do not hold back because I absolutely love that shit. Story to me comes
Yeah.
first.
Also, you know who else
And
loves it? The people that are watching.
yeah,
So nothing makes for good TV than some drama, right?
nothing is off limits for me. Like, we've obviously talked, we've had a
Yep.
talk. There are
Yeah, yeah.
certain topics that will not show up, or they will be like referenced lightly off to the side, like
We
this
did this
happened
whole
over here,
session
that's
zero. We're
it.
being responsible.
Yeah, we're doing this. But like, I love people getting into it. If you yell at me, do it. I want that shit. Like, I want it all to be the like. I want the full experience of being a DM. But I will say that just because most of you are DMs or have been playing for a long time, does not mean you know Dungeons and Dragons when it comes to temptations.
Yeah.
So
I
all
I
that knowledge is gonna have to get tossed out the window pretty quickly.
it's interesting because I think, when I play, I don't try to DM, right? I mean, I kind of
Mm,
just like to roll with it because when I play, I mean, I focused, but it's my opportunity to turn that part of my brain off, right? And not
yeah.
have to be the one that remembers everything, right? I've got
Mhm.
my character sheet. I embody my character, and then I let someone else deal with
Yeah.
the rules.
Everybody else can deal with the rest.
I know what buttons to click. I know what to do. So
But yeah,
I will say, I plug if you do like drama and people getting into it, you really should be watching Omega Ohm's Walking Dead. I mean, and I'm talking not just to the viewers, but I'm talking to you specifically because
I
there's
know.
so much
I
inner party
started
drama.
watching it.
Did you start watching it?
I did. I've started watching it. I
There's
just don't have
so
the
much.
attention span to
Okay.
like keep going.
I'm
But
telling
I've
you,
started
there's
it.
so much, and it's kind of just the world and the setting itself, but there's so much inner party drama in that. Like, it's great. It's great. So, Okay, dude, I am excited. We will be playing. Actually, in 24 hours, we'll probably be getting towards the end of our first session. So we again, reminder, this is going to be Thursday nights, US time,
Mhm.
9:30 p.m. Eastern, and it will be every other week. Now, we will have content for you every Thursday, but Temptation specifically is going to be every other week, so it'll be the 2nd, the 16th, 30th, so on and so forth. So, hope you check that out. I will also be putting them, of course, on the YouTube channel, likely the next day. So take deep breaths. You've been streaming for a year and a half. It's gonna be fine. Um, but
You've been
yeah,
streaming
dude.
for a year and a half. I've been doing it for nearly 9 years.
Oh, you're fine. You're
I'm
good.
good.
You're good to go. So, yeah, it's gonna be fun. I'm excited. I can't wait for the players to get in there. I just can't wait to be a player. I can't wait to see my box at the bottom instead of at the top. It's gonna be weird. It's gonna be weird.
That's gonna feel good. I'm gonna have power. No,
Yeah, yeah.
I better not let that get to my head.
And then
Um,
I'll just swap them. I'll just
yeah.
move you down.
Every now and again, you'll just move some
Yeah.
characters around. Like Killer's in charge now. Um,
Oh,
no,
that'd be interesting.
expect to be surprised,
We
and just
should we
because you
should
know D
do
and
we
D
should do
doesn't mean
like
you
a
know.
round robin game where every now and then I just move them around. I say, "Okay, you're the DM now," and then we have to swap. That would be fun. That'd
That
be a
would be
fun one
really
shot.
cool.
Okay, that's a fun one
That would
shot.
be
I'm gonna
interesting.
put that in the back of my mind. And then I just
Hmm.
say, and then we roll a die, or see who the next DM is, and I'll just swap the screens and we just keep going. Oh.
I'm down. That'd be
Anyway,
cool.
Temptations premiering tomorrow at 9:30. We will see you there. Do you have anything else you'd like to say, Psychic?
Good luck,
Thanks.
and be prepared for the absolute mindscape that is my head.
Oh Lord.
Punches will not be pulled.
Hmm. I think that goes both ways, actually.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's gonna
I'm
be
fully ready, but it's yeah. Oh,
all right.
last thing,
Oh yeah.
characters may die. Characters may die.
Oh, I mean it's D
I'm
and D,
not
of course.
I'm not gonna be, but like there's a lot of people that have like in their story the character's like I'm gonna this is gonna get me absolutely crucified. Critical Role does a really good job of keeping everybody alive for a very long time, and I hate that.
Mm.
So I
I mean,
am a
they've
story
had some
first.
character deaths.
If the character is like if it's set up and the character like it's if their death is gonna mean a lot for the story, I am not afraid to kill a character for the
Mm.
story with permission from the players, obviously. Because if they say
Well, and then
no, well, then
sometimes
I'm
they
going to be
just
like,
die.
well,
So,
we're just going to happen. But no, like I'm going to
sometimes
let my
they
players
just
know in
yeah,
advance,
as
get
long
ready
as you
for a new
gotta as long
character.
as the character if the character, you gotta let them not I mean, if they can get out of it and don't want to die.
If
Forcing
they
a death
can,
would
sure,
make me
fair, but
super
we'll
mad.
see. But no, like story first. If the character death happens, like with Nozak, the character died at that point. It was huge for story. It was huge for his character growth. I was fully okay with him dying at that point.
Yeah.
That is what I am okay with. If it's gonna happen at a point where like it's gonna extend the story, it's gonna help.
Oh,
Like that
I was
also.
uh I was okay killing Nozak. I was just gonna have you roll for it with the rules, but you were like, I kind of it's fine with me. I'm like, oh okay, you can just
Yeah,
die then.
I'll kill him.
You can
No,
just
but
we
like
can
that also
save the
worked with
rolls.
Morrow because Nozak was the only one that never had a good interaction with Morrow, so like
Yeah,
that helped with that. If anybody else was there, the whole situation would have been very different.
Court
But it
Morrow.
was just them two, and I'm like, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
who cares? He dead. But
Yeah,
no,
if
like
even one other person
I'm
was
not
there. Hey, Fishy's in the chat. Hey, Fishy, you got any
fishy.
questions for Nozak? Or Nozak? Oh my God, psychic. God,
We
I
got a
gotta
question.
remember.
Go.
I gotta
Um,
remember your name.
when from like this is ages ago when all of the characters had their like names and everything, and I saw what Fishy's real name was. I was like, no, it's not. Your name is
Yeah,
Fishy. Your name is Ava. Your
yeah,
name is not that.
yeah.
But yeah, I am not above. I am not above character deaths. If it's gonna happen, if it happens naturally, if it happens like for the story, whatever, I am not above it, asking if it would be an idea to do this. If you're not comfortable, obviously we don't.
Sure.
But like I am going to always ask my players, this is how it's going.
You know,
This would make sense, but if you don't want it, they're not
I,
going to
I
have it.
think that I think that most of the players would either be okay with that or be like, and it depends on what kind of character they're playing. I mean, some of them might be
Yeah,
like, no, we need to. I will
we
rail
need
against
more.
this. But yeah, fishy bugs in the chat did ask, Temptation's the name of the campaign or the system. It is
It
the
is the
name
name
of
of
the
the campaign.
campaign. The system is 5e. So we're playing
Yes,
D&D 5e for this one. So um,
it's going to be
Psychic was
good.
like, "That's all I know how to run," and I was like, "All right." No, I'm joking. I wanted to play 5e too because I wanted to use my I wanted to use my
Like,
character sheet.
I know other systems. I just haven't had any experience with other
Oh,
systems.
I like 5e. Like, look, I like 5e. There's a reason that 5e was the one I picked for Kupo Quest. But yeah, so this is a 5e campaign that will be, and we're starting at level 1. Are we doing milestone leveling or do you do experience?
Milestone.
Thank God. Okay. I
I
forgot
don't
to
do it
ask you
level
that.
experience.
It's just
No,
so much. It's so many number crunches. I just don't
it's
like
so
like
much
keeping
easier
track
to
of
do
it.
milestone.
Yeah, I think so too.
And also, like, I'm good at maths, but I'm not good at that quick. I'm
It's
not
just
doing that shit.
yeah, and level 1 is dangerous. Fishy just point that out. So I hope no one dies like right away. That's the only thing I hope.
So many, like, of my players there, but like level 1 is the most dangerous one. We usually, like, people like to start at level 3 where they have some stuff to go with, and like level 1 is so dangerous. I'm like, really?
Yeah, because you're one, especially a wizard is one crit away from permadeath. Because one
Yeah,
crit
true.
at a low level thing could like do enough HP to kill them outright.
Yeah.
Level one
You do
is
need
the
to be
most
careful with a level 1 wizard, because 1d4 sneezing damage could probably take them out.
right. So you crit that 8 damage, boom.
Yeah,
Right? so
that's fair.
so yeah. So yeah, we're
But
starting
no,
level
yeah.
1. Campaign again kicks off tomorrow. I'm excited.
Regular time for us.
Yeah, regular time. I mean, if you watch anything on the Wolfkins tabletop Twitch, it's always starts at 9:30 because that's when I have free. Kidkins is in bed and I have time to play uninterrupted and not feel guilty about not being dadkins for a bit. So 9:30. With that, we are wrapping up because I actually recorded a podcast before this, so I've been talking for 2 hours. I'm at the very end of my cold, and I'm gonna go rest my voice for tomorrow.
Uh,
I got to work on my voice. Any last words you'd like to throw out there, Psychic? I know we
Good
did this
luck.
already, but then you kept talking, so.
Good luck. Just good
All
luck.
right, thank you,
Don't just
thank you.
because you know D&D doesn't mean you know Temptations.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. Fishy, we hope to see you in the chat or something if you'd like to hang out with us tomorrow night. It's going to be a good time, I think. So, my first time playing 5e on stream, and I'm very, very excited and playing 5e. With that, everybody, we will be signing off here. I'll put this up on YouTube too if anybody missed it, so they could watch it there. And we'll see you tomorrow when the game starts. Yep, it will be regular Kupo Quest time Thursdays, so 9:30 every other week. So, all right, man.
Yay!
Thanks for doing this. Thanks for talking and hanging out, and I'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Have a good one, everybody.